Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: McCoy runs for 1 TD, passes for another. FCS No. 3 Idaho beats Cal Poly 42-14. Toddlers with developmental delays are missing out on help they need. It can hurt them long term. After years in opposition, Britain's Labour Party senses it's on the verge of regaining power. Most disadvantaged UK students are still not going to top universities. The cult of the gifted amateur lives on. McCoy runs for 1 TD, passes for another. FCS No. 3 Idaho beats Cal Poly 42-14. Associated Press. Idaho defeated Cal Poly 42-14 in a college football game on Saturday night. Giovanni McCoy ran for a touchdown and threw for another, while wide receiver Hayden Hatton threw his second touchdown pass of the season. Idaho has now won 3 games in a row and is ranked number 3 in the FCS coaches poll. Cal Poly's Bo Kelly passed for 262 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Toddlers with developmental delays are missing out on help they need. It can hurt them long term. The Toronto Star. The federally mandated early intervention program in the U.S. is facing chronic staffing shortages, leaving many parents frustrated as they wait for months to receive support for their children with developmental delays. The program, which is designed to address developmental delays in babies and toddlers, is plagued by long wait lists, understaffing, and a lack of available providers. The COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the situation, with many providers hesitant to enter families' homes due to the risk of infection. As a result, many children are missing out on the early interventions that could make a significant difference in their development. The delays in receiving services not only impact children's development but also contribute to social inequity. Research shows that ethnic and racial disparities exist in access to early intervention services, with Asian, Hispanic, and Black children less likely to receive the support they need. Additionally, families with private insurance have the option to pay for therapy appointments outside of the early intervention program, while families without the means to do so are left behind. The shortage of providers is a significant issue, and better wages are needed to attract more professionals to the field. Early intervention providers in Illinois, for example, are government contractors with no health benefits or paid time off. Many providers are leaving the field for better paying positions in hospitals, schools, or nursing homes. The lack of providers also impacts schools, as they are already short on special education teachers. As a result, children are falling further behind, and families are left waiting for crucial support. After years in opposition, Britain's Labour Party senses it's on the verge of regaining power. The Toronto Star. The UK's Labour Party is gathering for its annual conference with optimism, as it leads in the polls, 20 points ahead of the ruling Conservatives. Last week the party won a special election in Scotland. The Conservatives have been in power since 2010 and have lost support from Southern voters who dislike Brexit and Northern working-class voters who switched from Labour in 2019. Most disadvantaged UK students are still not going to top universities. Financial Times. Students from the UK's least well-off families are still not more likely to attend the country's top universities than they were 25 years ago, despite efforts to improve access, according to research by consultancy Data for the Sutton Trust. While the proportion of UK school leavers going to university has risen by 60% since 1997, the most disadvantaged students are underrepresented at the most prestigious institutions. The research was released ahead of the Labour Party conference, which is expected to discuss the party's plans for higher education. The cult of the gifted amateur lives on. Financial Times. The UK's governing classes are plagued by inexperience, according to Rory Stewart, former MP and author of Politics on the Edge. Stewart recounts stories of his time in politics, including the lack of empathy shown by his boss after his father's death, and the Edwardian fantasy that an Oxford degree alone qualifies one for anything. While boards typically opt for leaders with relevant industry experience, politics often sees pivotal roles filled with individuals who lack any related experience. Stewart highlights that this is not the case in the U.S., where defense secretaries often have military backgrounds. Gronowski, South Dakota St. beat Illinois St. 40-21, extend win streak to 19 games. Associated Press. South Dakota State extended their program record win streak to 19 games with a 40-21 victory over Illinois State. Mark Gronowski accounted for 4 touchdowns, while Isaiah Davis rushed for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. South Dakota State, ranked number 1 in the FCS coaches poll, has not lost a game since their 2022 season opener. Illinois State's Zach Anekstad threw for 162 yards and a touchdown in the loss. Number 16 Mississippi scores 10 points in fourth quarter to rally for 27-20 win over Arkansas. Associated Press. Number 16 Mississippi rallied to beat Arkansas 27-20 on Saturday night. The Rebels trailed 20-17 before a decisive 75-yard, 12-play scoring drive, capped by Ulysses Bentley Ivy's 6-yard touchdown run. Bentley finished with 13 carries for 94 yards. Number 24 Louisville beats number 10 Notre Dame 33-20, with Jevhar Jordan running for 143 yards, 2 TDs. Associated Press. Number 25 ranked Louisville defeated number 10 ranked Notre Dame with a final score of 33-20. Louisville's Jevhar Jordan had a season high of 143 rushing yards, scoring on runs of 45 and 21 yards. Louisville is now 6-0, their best start in 10 years. Notre Dame has now lost 2 out of their last 3 games and had won 30 straight games against Atlantic Coast Conference opponents. Immigration problems are laid bare, time for real solutions. The Sydney Morning Herald. Australia's visa and immigration systems are completely broken and in crisis due to their complexity and susceptibility to exploitation, according to an investigation conducted by the Sydney Morning Herald and 60 Minutes. The investigation found that criminals were openly recruiting young women with the promise of a new life in Australia and then using them for sexual exploitation. There have been multiple warnings about the issue, but action has not been taken. The government must balance the economic need for temporary migrants with the need to prevent exploitation. Good evening, viewers. It's your friendly neighborhood 6 Doctor here, bringing you the latest news from the 6 Degrees world. As always, I'm here to entertain, inform, and provide you with a fresh perspective on the happenings of our interconnected world. So, grab your popcorn, sit back, and let's dive into today's stories. In the world of sports, Giovanni McCoy led Idaho to a decisive victory over Cal Poly, running for a touchdown and throwing for another. Idaho has now won 3 games in a row and is ranked number 3 in the FCS coaches poll. Meanwhile, South Dakota State extended their program record win streak to 19 games with a dominant performance against Illinois State. Mark Gronowski and Isaiah Davis were the stars of the game, leading South Dakota State to a 40-21 victory. On the college football front, number 16 Mississippi pulled off a comeback win against Arkansas, scoring 10 points in the fourth quarter to secure a 27-20 victory. And let's not forget Louisville's impressive win over Notre Dame, with Jevhar Jordan running for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's been an action-packed weekend of college football, and the excitement is only just beginning. Shifting gears to the realm of education, a concerning report from the Toronto Star highlights the challenges faced by toddlers with developmental delays. The federally mandated early intervention program in the U.S. is struggling with chronic staffing shortages, leaving many parents frustrated as they wait for months to receive support for their children. The COVID-19 pandemic has only worsened the situation, with providers hesitant to enter families' homes due to the risk of infection. This not only hinders children's development but also contributes to social inequity, with ethnic and racial disparities in access to early intervention services. It's clear that urgent action is needed to address these issues and ensure that all children have equal access to the support they need. Speaking of urgent action, the UK's Labour Party is sensing an opportunity to regain power as they gather for their annual conference. The party is leading in the polls, 20 points ahead of the ruling Conservatives. With the Conservatives losing support from Southern voters who dislike Brexit and Northern working-class voters who switched from Labour in 2019, the political landscape in the UK may be on the verge of a significant shift. It will be interesting to see how the Labour Party capitalizes on this momentum and what their plans for higher education entail, as research shows that disadvantaged UK students are still not attending top universities at a higher rate than they were 25 years ago. Education is a key driver of social mobility, and it's crucial that efforts to improve access to higher education are successful. Now, let's take a trip down memory lane with the Financial Times exploration of the cult of the gifted amateur in the UK's governing classes. Rory Stewart, former MP and author of Politics on the Edge, sheds light on the inexperience and lack of empathy that often plague those in positions of power. While relevant industry experience is highly valued in the corporate world, politics seems to have a different set of rules. Stewart points out that this is not the case in the US, where defense secretaries often have military backgrounds. Perhaps it's time for the UK to take a page out of America's book and prioritize expertise and experience in our political leaders. Lastly, we head down under, where an investigation by the Sydney Morning Herald and 60 Minutes has exposed the broken state of Australia's visa and immigration systems. The complexity and susceptibility to exploitation have allowed criminals to openly recruit young women with promises of a better life, only to exploit them for sexual purposes. This is a grave issue that demands immediate action. Balancing the economic need for temporary migrants with the need to prevent exploitation is a delicate task, but it's one that the Australian government must tackle head-on. That's all for today's news, folks. Remember, knowledge is power, and it's up to us to stay informed and engaged with the world around us. So, what are your thoughts on today's stories? Do you have any burning questions or unique perspectives to share? I'm all ears. Let's continue the conversation and explore the fascinating tapestry of our interconnected world. Until next time, stay curious and keep those questions coming. You never know what we'll uncover together in the 6 Degrees universe. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.